Welcome back to the second segment of the story of Lake Park from the Becker County Museum Roadshow. And we again have Marj Johnson. Marj, tell us your early recollections of Lake Park.
Well, of course, for me, the recollection is that there were quite a few businesses, 3 grocery stores as I remember it. But the thing that I remember the best was Ann's Pastry, run by a lady by the name of Ann Phillips, and she sold triple-decker ice cream cones for a nickel.
Oh, a nickel.
And occasionally we were lucky enough to have a nickel to spend totally on whatever we wanted, and invariably it was a triple-decker from Ann's Pastry.
And what were the flavors?
You could have 3 flavors as long as they were chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
In any order?
In any order, or you could have them all one, but we always used all 3, of course.
Of course, of course.
That's my earliest memory, were the wonderful ice cream cones, and that cost a magnificent big sum of a nickel.
Now, besides the 3 grocery stores and the ice cream shop, the pastry shop, you said?
Ann's Pastry was the name of it.
Okay,
and
what
her
else
name
did
was
they
Ann
have?
Phillips. Well, she did some baking.
Okay.
But of course, so did we. We were never in the market for baking. We were only in the market for the ice cream when we walked in there.
Now, I understand that the Senex originally was the co-op, and that started 100 and some years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there were, the Big Five Co-op had a store in downtown Lake Park, a grocery store. And then the Senex started the co-op, Lake Park Co-op Creamery, started the oil company in late 40s, sometime in the 40s. I don't know exact dates. I started working there in 1963 and worked there for almost 30 years in the office. And I did everything when I first started. Well,
you drove a school bus also.
I drove a school bus, and I would pump a quart of oil if somebody needed it, or I'd clean a toilet if it needed it, or I'd work out the board report and do the tax reports. And
very good.
Whatever needed to be done, I did it.
Now, you know, I saw pictures of a hotel. Do you remember the hotel?
Oh, yes. The hotel was a fine, beautiful building. And as I understand it, was used quite a bit by people who came off the railroad, because the railroad was used for transportation between Minneapolis and Fargo. And Lake Park then would often be a stopping place. And then there were stairs that led down to the depot, because of course it was a cut through there. And people would come off the train, come up the stairs, and walk not very far to the hotel and stay there. I can remember getting some company. This was after we were married. I remember getting some company, and we were living in an apartment. And I went down to the hotel and made reservations for them. And at that time, the rooms were $2 a piece, and they were lovely rooms.
Oh, really?
I looked at them. They were wonderful rooms. But that's a long time ago.
Yeah, $2.05 ice cream cones. Yeah, those are days gone by, yeah.
And the $2.05 was hard to come by, too.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Anything else about the town and the school or anything?
Well, of course, when we came into school from District 10, where we had finished the 8th grade, my first reaction was I had stepped into probably a cathedral. It was so huge. I can remember my first trip back there after having been gone, because after I graduated, of course, now we're in World War II, I went to Detroit, Michigan, and began making airplanes, but that's another story. When I walked into that school after having been gone for 4 or 5 years, I was so disappointed by how small it was, because I had remembered it, you know, with cathedral-like proportions, because I suppose my perception of space then was much different than it was some years after. That's the one thing that I remember.
How does Lake Park today compare to Lake Park of years gone by?
Well, there are many fewer businesses. We had 3 grocery stores, and of course Ann's Pastry that I've talked about with the ice cream. And we had a couple of hardware stores. Even earlier than that, there were millinery shops, hat makers, a couple of them. And I never visited those stores. They were gone by the time my memory sets in. But they were there.
They were there. And of course, early days before your time, they had I bet the harness shops and the horse.
Oh yes, and they had a
and
shoemaker shop, and they had the harness shop going even when I remember it. And of course, they had Holmgren's blacksmith shop, and I think, what I failed to tell you about was the mail delivery that came to us out in our District 10 school.
Oh, do tell me.
Well, Tommy Erickson was the mailman.
Okay.
And we had been blocked in for a long time. As I recall, it was almost 6 weeks of no mail delivery. And so Tommy Erickson, with the help, I understand, of the Holmgren blacksmith shop, had taken the wheels off the front end of his car and fashioned skis there, and created, I suppose, the forerunner of the snowmobile, and delivered mail to us at the school. In later years, Jay Garso I was then in high school. He was the mail carrier, and he also was a pilot. And the big excitement in school one day was he flew in and dropped a pile of mail in a sack, and the teacher took it in and spread it out, and everybody sorted the mail, and everybody carried their mail home.
Was that the first air-delivered mail?
Probably.
Probably. Marge, I'd like to hear about being Rosie the Riveter.
Oh, that's what happened after I graduated from high school.
Yes, we will talk a little bit about that on our next episode.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for this, and we will be back another day.
It's my pleasure.